Have you ever wondered what secrets lurk in the shadows of your own home? That cozy corner where you sip your morning coffee, the silent hallway you tread at night, or the basement that's been untouched for years? Could these familiar spaces be shrouding mysteries, whispering tales of the unknown? Our perception of safety is often an illusion, a comforting lie we tell ourselves. As we delve into the dark corners of one man's life, remember this: every house has its secrets. Well, one man discovered that his home was hiding a horrifying secret. In the heart of his own house, he stumbled upon something that would send chills down anyone's spine. You see, it was a day like any other, the sun shining outside, birds chirping their merry tunes. And there he was, within the confines of the mundane, the ordinary, the safe. As he moved about his home, a peculiar sense of unease began to creep upon him. It was like a whisper of the wind, a subtle change in the atmosphere, hinting at something awry. As he ventured deeper into his abode, the feeling amplified, becoming a gnawing concern that wouldn't be ignored. He found himself drawn to a room he hadn't frequented in quite some time. It was a room untouched by the passage of time, a room that held memories, both pleasant and not so much. It was here that he found it, a discovery that was as unexpected as it was unsettling. What he encountered was disturbing, something that was a part of his house, his life, yet it felt alien, out of place. The specifics of the discovery are not of utmost importance just yet. What is important is the dread that filled him, the icy tendrils of fear that coiled around his heart, squeezing tighter with each passing moment. This was not a mere object or a misplaced item. This was something that twisted the very fabric of his normalcy, something that turned his safe haven into a place of unease, an arena of dread. The familiar walls of his house seemed to close in, their comforting embrace now replaced with a cold, distant indifference. The man stood there, a statue frozen in time, his gaze locked onto his discovery. His heart pounded in his chest, a steady drum echoing the terror coursing through his veins. His mind raced, attempting to make sense of the inexplicable, to unravel the mystery that had abruptly invaded his reality. But the true horror was not just what he found, but what it led to. Because you see, this discovery was not the end. No, it was only the beginning of a terrifying journey, a path that would lead him into the depths of the unknown. As he delved deeper into the mystery, the secrets began to unravel themselves in the most unexpected ways. The discovery he had made, the object of his fascination, was not a mere trinket. It was much more than that. It was a puzzle piece, a clue that tied together a series of peculiar events he'd been experiencing. He started to connect the dots. The soft whispers in the dead of the night, the misplaced items around his home, the shadowy figure he'd catch sight of in the corner of his eye, they weren't figments of his imagination. They were real, tangible manifestations of something much darker, much more sinister. He thought back to the first strange event, a book falling off the shelf on its own. He'd shrugged it off as a fluke, a random gust of wind perhaps. But then, there were the unexplained power outages, the chilling drafts that seemed to come from nowhere, the eerie feeling of being watched. He'd dismissed these incidents as quirks of his old house, but now they took on a menacing significance. The object he'd found, with its intricate carvings and strange aura, was the epicenter of it all. It wasn't just some random artifact, it was a beacon, a magnet drawing all these strange occurrences towards him. It was a key, unlocking a doorway to a realm he had never imagined. The more he thought about it, the more the pieces fell into place. It was as if a veil had been lifted from his eyes, and he could see clearly now. The object, the whispers, the shadows, they were all linked. His discovery was not a blessing. It was a curse, an invitation to a world of darkness he had unwittingly accepted. The realization sent a chill down his spine. It was a revelation that made his blood run cold, a twist that turned his world upside down. Suddenly, the odd happenings in his home didn't seem so random after all. The further he investigated, the more the terror grew, wrapping its icy fingers around his heart. The once familiar comfort of his own home transformed into a labyrinth of dread, every corner concealing a new fear. As the man delved deeper into the mystery, the walls of his sanity began to crumble. Shadows danced and twitched in the corners of his vision, playing out a macabre ballet of his deepest anxieties. The silence of the house was broken only by the erratic rhythm of his own heartbeat, drumming out a symphony of terror in his ears. His mind, once a sanctuary, now became a playground for paranoia. He began to question everything. Was that creaking floorboard simply the house settling, or was it the sound of an unseen entity stalking him? Did the wind really cause the curtains to flutter, or was it the breath of an invisible specter? Every familiar object, every mundane sound took on a sinister significance. The man's courage, once as solid as a fortress, was now as brittle as glass, ready to shatter at the slightest provocation. He moved through his own home like a stranger, each step hesitant, each breath heavy with fear. Yet, even as the terror gnawed at his sanity, he could not turn away. He was drawn to the mystery like a moth to a flame, driven by a morbid curiosity that outweighed his fear. The dread was a bitter poison, but he drank it willingly, desperate to uncover the truth. The house, once a symbol of safety and warmth, was now a crypt of unspeakable horrors, its walls echoing with the whispers of his own fears. The dread was a living entity, feeding off his terror, growing stronger with each passing moment. And then, just when he thought things couldn't get any worse, they did. The horror was no longer confined to his mind. It began to seep into reality, its dark tendrils reaching out, ready to consume everything in its path. The unraveling horror was just beginning. In the end, the truth was far more horrifying than anything he could have imagined. Our protagonist, a man of courage and curiosity, had been driven to the brink of insanity by the haunting secrets his house held. The creaking floorboards, the shadowy corners, the whispers in the wind, everything pointed towards something sinister, something otherworldly. As he delved deeper into the mysteries of his home, he stumbled upon a hidden room. Not just any room, but a chamber of secrets that held the ultimate revelation. The room was a mirror of the past, a reflection of a time long gone, yet its essence was trapped within the four walls, waiting to be discovered. In the heart of this room, he found an old, dusty journal. The pages were brittle, the ink faded, but the stories they told were as vivid as if they had happened yesterday. The journal belonged to the original owner of the house, a man known for his eccentricities and obsession with the occult. As he turned the pages, he read about rituals, about summonings, about a pact made with the darkness. The house wasn't just a house, it was a gateway, a conduit between our world and something much more terrifying. The creaks and whispers were not figments of his imagination, but tangible proof of an invisible presence. The realization was like a cold slap on the face. The truth was far more horrifying than he could have ever imagined. His home, his sanctuary, was a playground for malevolent spirits. They were not trapped in the house. Instead, they had been invited, welcomed, their existence tied to the very foundation of his home. The revelation was a shock, a terrifying twist that sent shivers down his spine. His heart pounded in his chest as he faced the reality of his situation. He was not alone. He was never alone. His house was a beacon for the supernatural, a magnet for the unholy. But the nightmare was far from over. Just when he thought he had uncovered all the secrets, he realized he was wrong. A chill ran down his spine, a cold realization that echoed in the silence around him. The walls, once thought to be mute, seemed to whisper in hushed tones, their voices laced with a morbid curiosity. The dread was palpable, filling the air with an icy touch, a touch that screamed of untold secrets yet to be unearthed. Every corner, every crevice seemed to hide a story. Stories of the macabre, of the darkness that lay in wait. His heart pounded in his chest, a rhythmic symphony of fear that echoed the ominous whispers around him. The secrets he thought he had laid bare were but a mere prelude, a preamble to the symphony of horror that awaited him. He had delved deep into the abyss, hoping to find answers. But the abyss had a cruel sense of humor. It didn't just stare back, it laughed, a sinister chuckle that reverberated in the eerie silence. It promised more secrets, more revelations that lurked in the shadows, waiting to be found. And with each passing second, the dread grew, the fear amplified, the anticipation built. The stakes were higher than ever. He was not just a witness anymore. He was a part of the story, a character in the macabre play of secrets and revelations. And the curtain was yet to fall. for the darkness had one more secret to reveal, one that would change everything.